Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, we're looking at Dynasty Rookie Sleepers. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't. 60% of my viewers are not yet subscribed to the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Let's jump into our first sleeper. Jase McClellan. So these are sleepers. These are rookie sleepers. These are players that, I could tell you, Audric Estime or Braylon Allen is a sleeper. But if you're watching my channel, you know about Braylon Allen. You know about Audric Estime. So we're really trying to go a little deeper. So when we talk about Jase McClellan, who I don't think I've talked about on the channel at all, he went to Alabama for college, and he had a honestly not so great college career. In 2020, didn't do anything. 23 carries and a catch. Barely was there. Did have 245 yards on the 23 carries, though. And in 2021, he played in 5 games. So he didn't do much there either. But in 2022, he woke up 112 carries, 655 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5.8 yards carry, and 14 catches, 174 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So he had a pretty good season in a part-time role. He was 20 years old during this season. Then in 2023, as a 21-year-old senior, he became, a high share guy. 180 carries, 890 yards, 8 touchdowns, but just 4.9 yards to carry, 15 catches for 137 yards. Didn't really deliver there. So if he didn't play at Alabama, we're not drafting him. Nobody is drafting this player with this college career. Otherwise, if they did not play at Alabama. But he did get drafted to the Atlanta Falcons, 6th round, 186th overall. He's still just 22 years old. He turned 22 in June. So we're talking about some of the players in this class are 24, even almost 25. So he's not old. And maybe that's why the Falcons decided to take a chance on him. Now, if we look at a path to relevance for Jase McClellan, one of the biggest things for these players is you want them to make the team. You can't really produce for fantasy if you don't make the team. It's very hard to imagine that the Falcons are not going to keep him on the roster after they drafted him. And they really have nobody else other than Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier at running back. So it makes sense that McClellan's going to make the team as the RB3. And we know that the Falcons are a great offensive scheme now that they have Kirk Cousins and they have Zach Robinson as their offensive coordinator coming from the Rams system. Now, of course, we're talking about sleepers here. So none of these players have a lock on anything. But I do like McClellan versus some of the other UDFA running backs who I would have behind him at this stage. Therefore, 60th overall in rookie drafts. Probably not drafted in most of your leagues. So you can pick him up off waivers. And if he makes the team, you never want to root for an injury. But we're one injury away from McClellan having a role on game days. So those are the type of sleepers in Dynasty you want to hang on to, because I guarantee you, if you look at who's starting in lineups in weeks 15 and 16, you're going to see a lot of players you wouldn't expect. So yeah, for those reasons, I have him RB91. Again, not very high, but someone to consider. We like keeping running backs on the back of our Dynasty rosters. Now, next up, Jared Wiley. So Jared Wiley is a prospect that I think is pretty bad. He's not a good prospect. Not good. But despite that, he's kind of put himself in a position where he has a chance at some fantasy relevance. So he started off at Texas, did nothing in 2019. He had 1 catch. Then nothing in 2020. 9 catches for 166 yards and a touchdown. Nothing in 2021. 9 catches for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then he transferred to TCU, got more involved. 24 catches, 245 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 2022. And then in his 5th year, finally, he was actually really good. 47 catches, 520 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That's very solid for a college tight end. And he actually got decent draft capital. He went to the Kansas City Chiefs, of course. We all love when someone goes to the Chiefs. 4th round, 131st overall. Now, if we look at Wiley's situation, we know that Travis Kelce is aging. He turns 35 in October. Noah Gray has been unimpressive as tight end 2, and Wiley's been having a strong performance. He performed very well at rookie camp, was kind of a standout. Gray has averaged 1.6 catches and 18 yards a game over the last 2 years. He had a chance to step up at points in 2023, and he did not. He did not earn a larger role. Really didn't do anything with the increased snap share that he had. I think we've gotten past the idea that Noah Gray is a potential successor to Travis Kelce. This is the last year of his rookie deal. I think they're moving on from that idea. If there's going to be a successor to Travis Kelce, it would be Jared Wiley, not Noah Gray. So in tight end premium leagues, I have Jared Wiley as my 52nd overall rookie, and he might even be moving up a little bit more as we continue, and also some other guys kind of fall potentially off their 53-man rosters. There's no doubt that Wiley as a 4th-round pick is going to make the team. That's not in doubt. And I have him at tight end 39 overall. And, you know, that's kind of in a range of guys like he's one spot ahead of fellow rookie Cade Stover and just a little bit behind Colby Parkinson, Daniel Bellinger, Dawson Knox, Jonnu Smith. So if you look at the names that are ahead of him, he could easily be 9-10 spots higher if he even flashes anything in the near future. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. You get all these rankings that I'm talking about, see who's moving up and down, access to the Discord, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $6 a month. I also have Patreon video roster reviews where I do a personalized video for your team. It's only available for patrons. And additionally, I don't really cover redraft or start sit anywhere for free. Those are for patrons only. This YouTube channel is about Dynasty. We will continue to cover Dynasty channel content on here. But if you want start sit or redraft, it's going to be on the Patreon. So I just appreciate everyone who signs up because it helps support the content that I'm doing here. And with that said, let's move into our third sleeper, Devontez Walker. So we talked a lot about Walker pre-draft, not really so much post-draft. He started his college career at Kent State, where he had 5 catches for 124 yards and touchdown in 2021. Then in 2022, he was a lot better. He had 58 catches for 921 yards and 11 touchdowns. But then he decided to transfer to North Carolina, a bigger school, to see if he can prove himself there. And he had 41 catches for 699 yards and 7 touchdowns, after which he entered the NFL draft, where unfortunately he fell out of day 2. And then more unfortunately, he fell to the Baltimore Ravens, 4th round, 113th overall. And I think that people just dismissed him once he went to the Baltimore Ravens, myself included. It really wasn't the destination that I wanted. But let's take a look at the situation. So he's competing with wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 with Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar. Bateman, again, has been criticized for poor performance at camp. Again, a 4th-year veteran can't do anything. Shocker that Rashad Bateman, a total bust, can't do anything. And then Nelson Aguilar is an old man, 31 years old. Now, it's not good since I'm already 29 that I'm calling, soon this is going to be my age. But in terms of dynasty terms, Nelson Aguilar is an old man. So, yeah, there's spot to playing time. The problem is that the Ravens offense, not very pass friendly. And they added Derrick Henry. They're not going to pass the ball more. It's only going to be less. So you kind of have to hope that the path to dynasty relevance is a little bit like Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is never going to be relevant without multiple injuries on this team. But he's flashed enough that the dynasty value is there, even if the fantasy value isn't. So that's kind of what you have to hope for. And then maybe Walker gets off this team eventually, kind of like Hollywood Brown did. Now, I'm 45th overall in Superflex rookie value. It's just hard because there's no path. There's no path for him to ever be relevant without multiple injuries or being on a different team. But again, it's the flash value that you hope for. And then you can either sell him or hope he goes to a different team. And yeah, I have him dynasty wide receiver 85, which I think is fair considering he's a talented player, just kind of stuck in maybe not the situation that we would want. Now, as I mentioned, patrons get to ask advanced questions for the YouTube. So I have a couple of those and then we'll wrap up the show. Number 1, what are your thoughts on max points for? So for anyone who doesn't know, essentially most dynasty leagues, rookie order is considered by reverse order of standings. Whatever the standings are, you just reverse it, at least for the non-playoff teams, and that's the order, just like the NFL. And then the playoff teams are usually decided by the playoff order. Again, just like the NFL. That's what most dynasty leagues do. What max points for is, and it's calculated a little bit differently on Sleeper versus MFL, so just watch your settings for that. But essentially, the point of it is that you take the best ball lineup for each week, and then you calculate that as kind of if you had set the ideal lineup, what would you have scored? So it calculates all your players, and then you just total that at the end. So whoever, and draft order is in reverse. Usually it's grouped by non-playoff and playoff teams, but not always. So for me, this is going to sound silly as to my thoughts on it, but I literally don't care. I don't care. I think it's fine. It avoids some tanking issues. There's no incentive to like bench your best players because it's just the best lineup counts for max points for. So it doesn't matter where the players are. But it also removes some strategy from the game. And, some people like the idea of tanking. I just don't care. It wouldn't have any impact on my decision to join a league or not. I'm fine playing with max points for. I'm fine playing without it. So it changes nothing for me. That's kind of my thoughts on it. And this last one I thought was interesting. In theory, if you were the NFL GM of a new expansion team, what would your approach be to building your roster? So obviously I could and won't do a whole video on this. I can guarantee you that video would not perform on this channel. There's a lot of people doing good content like that, and we know that that's not my niche. But to answer the question here, what would I do? Well, first of all, I would try to get a quarterback. Secondly, I would focus on accumulating future draft capital in a way NFL teams still don't do. They still undervalue future draft capital. Obviously, in the NFL, a new expansion team, which can only get these bad contracts, older players, or draft capital, is not winning in year 1 or year 2. So I would take an approach that focuses on trading away even some of the players I did get for draft capital, potentially trading away also future picks to accumulate, trading for future picks to accumulate more draft capital in the future. And I think that for an expansion team, you can get away with a little bit of tanking. In the NFL, you can't do it, right? I mean, you can't do it. But fan bases just won't accept it. It doesn't work like in the NBA where you can have a rebuild. Baseball, you can have a rebuild. But in NFL, maybe you can have a 1 year kind of low expectations a year like the Broncos have this year or something. But you have to say that you're trying to win. Of course, we'd still say that. But yeah, I would try to focus on building something a little bit slower and not going all in year 1 or 2, because obviously as an expansion team, that's not going to work. But yeah, that's kind of all my thoughts on that. This is really a little far outside of my purview on this channel. But I do like the question. It's kind of a fun question that I wish my alternative content performed a little bit better on the channel. I could do a video on this, but I just know it'll bomb. So unfortunately, we won't see that. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching the video. If you liked it, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops here. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. The link is at the top right corner and also below in the show comments. And we have Dynasty Redraft, Rookie Starts It, and more on there. And every sign up helps support the independent content that I'm doing here. But yeah, once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.